if I were made this much more money, if I could do this, if I could buy my own land.
No. If I was smart enough.
Oh, yeah.
You've ever like gotten into gambling?
Yeah.
For a long time, that was where I would go.
You seem like jealous almost and envious. I was like, yeah, I do, don't I?
Are you aware when you begin to have that emotion?
This specific instance was the subreddit Aspen Advice.
Yeah.
I have no idea if this is real or not. Because in a certain way he does it,
Oh, okay.
all he thinks about is smelling poop. This one time. So, we don't have to get into this. I'm just telling Yeah. It's recording.
Make sure catching audio. Catching audio.
Catching strays.
Strays.
Brett.
Clapped. See you clapped. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. My name's Logan. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Atlanta. To do what
Let's
you're
see.
putting me. I'm a little close over here.
Yeah.
What's up, man? How are you today?
Man, I'm good. I stayed up way too late last night watching basketball, and 3 cups of coffee in this morning. I am rolling. Those 10:30 starts are.
Yeah. No, thank you. I am. I got my Snuggie. I got my flip flops on, and I am ready for bed. I'm not about that life.
I wish I was as.
Have you ever had a Snuggie?
Not had a Snuggie.
I'm not, no joke. I'm a robe guy now.
So robe, I can
I'll
do a
put
robe.
a robe on post shower, and
Be done.
Dude, sometimes I sleep in it. I'm not ashamed to say it. Sometimes it gets way too hot, so I don't sleep in it. But,
Yeah, so generally speaking, I like gauge my the potential to have fun, if you know what I'm saying,
Sure.
based on whether my wife throws on the robe after she gets done with the shower or not.
So robe is a bit of a.
It's a tell.
Well, yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm the same way.
So you're like, Jenny, no way. I am.
Well, she doesn't wear the robe. It's me who wears the
Right,
robe.
but you're saying I'm no way.
And initially, for a long time, it was known as the sex robe. But now I wear it too much, where she's like, surely this can't be a sex robe.
You
like,
can't
be. You're just like, you're...
So it's like a Hugh Hefner kind of persona you take on.
Yeah, now it's just...
For Claudia, it's like I'm close for business. Like we're close.
You're saying it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Oh,
No, yes,
okay.
I can tell if she's got it on. I'm like,
I got you.
I'll just read and go to bed. I'll just read tonight.
Well, good to see you. Good night, babe.
It's good. I'll text her good night. While she's there.
Yeah. Speaking of you and Claude, how long have you been married for? Nate and I are both obviously contextually married, based on what we're talking about.
Yeah, not to each other, but to our wives.
That's a good point.
We married September 15th. You were there, September 15th, 2012.
Okay.
Dude, so we're coming up on this will be we're on year 13.
Yeah.
It'll be officially 13 years in September.
Congrats, man. Funny story about being there. I think it was like the first time I ever danced in front of my parents. My parents were at your wedding.
And you got some moves.
And we grew up Baptist, and there wasn't a whole lot of dancing back in the day. And
not
so
legally.
I remember thinking, it was funny. It was like it was weird enough for me that I was aware. I think this is the first time my parents have ever seen me dance. And I'm somewhat worried or concerned that my mom might think after this dance I'm going to go behind that barn and snort some coke or something because like if he's dancing now, honestly, let's just pray for him and good luck because next thing we know he's going to be tatted up and have coke behind them.
Yeah, have some piercings in your nose or your eyebrows or something.
Yeah. So,
well, you were there. That didn't happen.
No.
No.
At least the tattoos didn't happen. But.
Yeah. The Coke. No, that didn't happen either. No. Coca-Cola.
But I've been thinking recently, again, even in my own marriage, just like I'm deeply aware that when I am struggling, and whether in life, career, even like relationally with my wife or my kids, or I just begin to find myself comparing myself to others, that man, like it deeply impacts how I show up in my marriage in terms of the days like I feel like I don't know, super successful, or days I think things are going well. I feel good about myself. I come home like, hey babe, what's going on? Hey kid, what's going on? And I really feel, just stoked. Like I'm on top of the world.
Yeah.
But then the days where like those thoughts are spinning, like, man, what am I doing? I am not enough. I can't figure this out. I am blank. I can tell when I get home, my mind is still there. I'm not engaged with my kids. I'm not engaged with my wife. And realistically, how it ends up impacting my marriage.
Yeah.
That's something like you've.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to think about how the different circumstances affect
Yeah.
my mood, the way that I show up at home. Even if it's like, I had a rough meeting, or I mean, if Kentucky would have lost last night, like as sad as it is to say, like those kinds of things do affect. I do notice that, and when you're talking about like being successful and having like these intrusive thoughts that kind of invade. I am a very nostalgic person, and so I can just, and a classic overthinker. You know that about me. I just can overthink, and so it can really cause me to detach and separate when I get home, and to the point where not only do I notice, and don't care. Maybe I don't care, because I'm just so focused on myself. But my wife and I have a almost 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they can feel it.
For sure.
And of course, that when that happens, it's like, oh man, what am I doing?
No, dude. I think we often think like, oh, like in our marriage, once we get married and we're moving forward in our relationship, like, man, if my wife does something to me, that's going to impact my relationship. But I'm often not aware of like when life just happens like to me, and I am not where I thought I would be by the time I was 34 or whatever it may be. How it does begin to impact how I show up. But I think it's like not something just I experience. Honestly, it's something I hear my clients talk about a lot. It's something in general I just hear a lot of guys talk about, but also be afraid to talk about because it's not like the most like glorious thing just to be honest about. Yeah, man, like I feel this way, and two, it actually is like impacting my relationship, and so.
There's some things that we like busyness. We wear that as like a badge of honor, or like. I'm trying to think of other things, but like there's some like negatives that we almost we're fine talking about that, like it's almost a badge of honor, dude. I got this going on. You don't believe how busy I am,
Yeah, and even honestly, with some dudes, pornography is that way now.
Yeah,
like there's like a willingness, like, oh yeah, I'm looking porn. Oh, okay, cool. Like there's not like
it's just like such a normalized kind of thing.
It's an easy behavior to be honest about because it's just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that, but the comparison game, like I look at a friend who's doing something that I want to do in my life, and I'm not doing it, or I can't do it, or like it's not feasible right now. Yeah. I immediately can sense. In fact, one of my friends who's they have some land out in the country in their family, and he and his wife are deciding, like are about 80% to 90%. They're selling their house and going to build like a barn dominium out there and just like live out on the land. And I this was probably a month ago. Claudia was telling me about our friends who are doing that, and I felt myself like I am not. Yeah. I want that, and I am not doing what I. My life is not moving in a direction where that's feasible for me, and I love them. I'm so happy for them, but like I want that, and maybe I'm not doing something right in my life to be able to attain that right now. Yeah. That's just like a very recent version of that.
I think you did a really good job of like walking through what's like called like a kind of a thought map of understanding. Like there's a situation, hey, this happened with my friend. My thought is, man, like why am I not there or doing that, or kind of whatever thought that might have been for you, which led to this feeling of this emotion of whether jealousy or emotion of I don't know, discontentment or whatever you would say.
Yeah.
Which so typically is situation, thought, emotion, and then behavior. So I'm curious, like, are you aware when you begin to have that emotion, kind of how you wanted to respond? Like, is it withdrawing, or is it getting angry, or I don't know.
This specific instance was not as threatening for whatever reason. So it was safe for me to process out loud. Yeah. And even in the moment when Claudia said it, I wasn't defensive. Yeah. I was very aware. I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. There are times though, man, where if something happens and she's like, hey, what is that about? I'm like on the defensive, you know. And sadly, I think that's most of the time. Like it's like my reaction is to be on the defensive. Yeah. Maybe that's probably a similar thing with most people, but that particular one, I was stoked for them. Yeah. So for whatever maybe for a lot of reasons, I could sense that better than I normally do. And I think it was because I wasn't threatened or anything by it. It was just the reality of like, well, we can't do that,
Yeah,
you know, and,
for sure.
and I'm jealous that they get to do that.
Yeah.
And then, but my thoughts did go to, what am I not doing? Like how come
Yeah.
if I were to do this, if I were made this much more money, if I could do this, if I could buy my own land, you know.
If I was smart enough.
Oh yeah.
If I was smart enough, I should be able to figure, like, this person can figure it out.
Smarter than you.
If I was smart enough, I believe I should be able to figure it out. And the fact that I haven't means like I'm dumb or I'm not good enough. And you've ever like gotten into gambling, like sports gambling or anything? Okay. Okay. To me, like that's like for a long time, that was where I would go. I would not feel successful enough in terms of like, man, I don't feel like I am whether financially providing the way I would like to for my family, or I feel like I recently messed up and relationally with my wife. Not anything heinous, but even just like I didn't respond well or whatever, and I felt like trash and I didn't feel good. And so I would want to go somewhere. Not necessarily my response isn't like to numb. Some people respond in ways like, man, I don't like the way I feel. Let me go numb myself. To me, I wasn't like, let me go numb myself. To me, it's I don't feel good. Let me go do something that's a quick fix to make myself feel like more successful.
Yeah.
Because if I can go sports bet and make like $1,000 real quick, like, oh, dude, hey, you know,
if I made $1,000, I'd be feeling good.
You know, I might have messed up today at work, but I knew Devin Booker was about to score 25 points tonight. And so I feel like I'm a genius, right? Because again, it's a smart thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel smart enough, but if I can feel smart enough to figure out who's going to win between the Bulls and the Pistons, man, I'm smart.
Yeah.
And so for me, for a long time, it was sports betting. Luckily, I mean, it's something I was very aware of in terms of like I began to be aware of like, man, like this is where I go to feel successful. And so probably, honestly, I haven't sports bet I think about 5 years, just because I know it's not like, and I can't even like touch it with my toes, man. Because if I get too close to it, I
didn't know that about you.
Yeah, I can't. I did it daily for I don't know how many years, and then about 5 years ago, I was like, I can't do
Is it like a bookie or something? How did you do that? Because it wasn't even legal here in Georgia for a
while. I mean,
you had your ways, huh?
Yeah, you can have your ways, and really like there was stuff even 5 years ago. Like, I mean, DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports, or like DraftKings and FanDuel was available in Georgia.
Oh, just not in the sense of like, well,
you couldn't use like Bravada or something like that.
I got you.
But yeah, so I would go to that, and then really what happened for me once that kind of transitioned out of that, I realized it's not helpful. I got more into more crypto investing and gambling in that sense. Right?
Yeah.
And so shout out to all the crypto bros out there. I lived that life, and to me, again, it was a place like maybe I could go here, invest and win, quote unquote, quickly, and then I will then feel better about myself because I'm smart. I made the right investment.
So let me ask you this: you're talking about you don't feel enough in a certain thing, and then you go to a different thing where you can be enough.
Yeah,
and how
smart.
Smart, okay.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to generalize a little more.
Yeah.
So you're not enough.
Yeah.
Successful enough, smart enough, buff enough, strong enough, like good looking enough.
Yeah.
And so you go to this other place where you can kind of like build this, but the reality is nothing has changed in your current situation.
Oh, no.
And so how does that? I mean, as a person who's counseled, I don't know, hundreds of people, how do you like? I don't even know how I'm really getting to this point, the question here, but it's still a disconnect. Like nothing has been done to address the feeling of enough, right?
Sure.
In the initial part.
Yeah.
So how would you, when your clients, when they go down this route, like how do you lead them to like come back to this initial feeling, which has not been addressed, but I've just like hidden away in this other dark alley to take care of this thing, and now I'm great because I just won all this money betting on Devin Booker.
Yeah.
How would you then come back to that one point of being enough?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one understanding like, hey, the things you're filling yourself with are pretty empty, right? Whether any kind of addiction or whether it's substance or process. Process addiction is more like gambling, for instance, whereas substance is drugs or alcohol. Yeah, stuff you put in your body. And so there's an element of like, you can go to this thing and you can either feel, again, numb by a substance, or you can maybe feel more accomplished by a process. However, again, that is more of your own personal view of yourself. And it is outside of your actual character. It is actually outside of actually like how you're showing up relationally. It's outside of actually how you're showing up in places that really matter. And so I can be enough by myself, but then I realize I'm with people and I still don't feel like I'm enough, right? And so part of it is actually learning, oh, being enough isn't just about like uh, me, like just being enough for me. Me is actually being enough is actually about like being in the context of community
Yeah.
and actually allowing myself to be known and actually allowing myself to these like parts of me that I don't want people to know. Because often again, what happens is I don't want people to know that I don't feel enough, so I go and fill it, make myself feel like I'm better, compared to being honest that I'm not enough, and then I realize like, oh, I'm not enough, and it's okay,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a willingness to actually say, actually, no, I am. Maybe I'm not as funny as I want to be. I'm not as smart as I want to be. I'm not as blank as I want to be, and that's actually okay. I can
Yeah.
be honest about that, and people can actually accept that. And once I see that they accept that, I can feel much more connected. Like, oh, like, that's cool. I'm not saying don't like have goals and still try to move forward in these things.
Right.
But I think there's a level of like being able to hold two things at once. How do you be content in who you are and actually have goals at the same time, right? Typically, we get so caught in having goals that we're not content, and then no matter what goal we have, we just kick the can down the road in terms of like the next goal. Once I get that, I'll be happy. Well, the next goal, I get that, I'll be happy. When that's never true because we never learned how to be content. And so,
Yeah. So, like, we're talking about like being enough, whether it's successful. It's like this element of ambition and like desires.
Yeah.
It all kind of plays together. So for you, uh, so that was to me that was your counsel response. Okay.
Sure. Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
legitimately, like let's just like for Logan,
Yeah.
like I messed up.
Yep.
I didn't respond this way to my wife.
Yep.
I go down this road of like creating or something to where I can feel something.
Yeah.
What does Logan then have to go like? How does that look like practically for you to
Yeah.
go back and like rectify or like you said you recognize and like it's okay, but like how does that actually look like?
Yeah.
You being vulnerable or allowing yourself to be known
Yeah.
in this lacking like I'm not enough
Yeah.
with Jenny specifically, or like just to make it more practical, like boom for
Yeah.
Jenny specifically. How do you then come back to that and like be known? How do you be known to Jenny in this lacking of I'm not feeling this enough?
Yeah. So I would say two responses. One, I'll actually give like a non-Jenny response, and then I'll give a Jenny response because the first thing that comes to mind is actually happened the other day. So I just started my own private practice here in Atlanta. When you start anything, initially it takes time, it's slow, and I'm literally on Tuesday of this week, I was leaving my office and I was very aware of like, man, like I don't like feeling this way. How can I feel better? And I was like, I think in part, and I really had to talk to myself, man, I think in part it's just because I am alone and these thoughts are just in my head and they're not out. And so on my way home, I called a friend of mine and we talked for like 20 minutes on the way home. And truly, I'm not joking, I had texted my wife earlier that day. I was like, hey, Jenny, it's been a difficult day. Just like, can you be praying for me or think about me or whatever? And then I got home and I actually was like, she was like, are you okay? I was like, I feel great. Because like, I talked to a friend for 20 minutes and like, man, I was honest about how my day was. And I felt, and like, his response was just like, he didn't say anything overly like life-changing. He was just present and engaged and listened. And for me, like, oh man, truly, if I can just allow myself to be known, to be connected, share with other guys, and not be so scared that like I'm the only person that ever feels this way.
Yeah.
Man, it changes things so quickly. And so I think it's on one end. On the other end with Jenny, honestly, it's more of like a desire thing, I would say, if that makes sense. And is that I'm aware if I just think about whether it's work or a hobby. I play tennis. I like to get better at playing tennis. If I like to just kind of create random different things. I create like a different random football board game the other week, and like I can think about those things, and my desire grows for them because I'm thinking about them. Like, oh, there's a problem that I haven't yet solved with that, or oh, like I want to take this thing to the next level, or oh, I want to do this with it. And it's like I'll often meditate on it, and like that will kind of grow my desire for this thing. And I think when you get married, oftentimes I think you don't necessarily fantasize about your wife in the same way you fantasize about a sport or a work or something else. Meaning you just don't like practically think about like how you want to move things forward. And so I think for me, a lot of it is how do I actually spend time reflecting on like the things I love about my wife, the things that draw me to her, the things I really appreciate, the things that really like, from the very beginning till now and in between. Because I think within that, the more I can think about that, the more it reminds me of, oh man, like she has loved me so much in so many different places. And it gives me more courage to constantly be honest because I know how she's responded.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if that fully answers your question.
No, I think, well, one thing that I love, and you went to this, and so I want to transition to this because I think it's fun, but like, you were vulnerable with a friend.
Yeah.
And that vulnerability, you being known, being seen, being like, actually, this is how I am, this is where I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And even though he wasn't like, oh, here's ABC, what you need to do.
Yeah.
He was just like, dude, I love you, man.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta go
Yeah.
grill or whatever. But like that alone, you getting on off your chest, being vulnerable, allowed. It was an outlet for you to be able to come home and be present, and not and that feeling of not enough.
Yeah.
Didn't go away.
No.
But your awareness of it, and your whatever, your awareness of it, your feeling of that you were lacking or unsuccessful or whatever it was, not smart enough, whatever it was, it wasn't as big of a deal anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so when we talk about vulnerability, I think it's so fascinating to me. I think people, everybody knows this to be true. We are way more vulnerable.
Sure.
To a Google search bar
Yeah,
or to a Reddit bar.
Put some anonymity behind me.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
I read this book and it was called Everybody Lies. I can't even tell you who wrote it, but the whole premise of the book was people are going to be way more honest on even more than an anonymous survey.
Yeah.
Their Google search bar.
Yeah.
And it was just so fascinating for me. And so one thing I think would be really fun to do, and I'm going to grab my computer, is to look at Reddit has some.
Dude.
I'm not big in Reddit. I've only Reddit's like this. It's like the dark alley that I just don't want to necessarily go down. Not because I'm fearful, but I just it's a lot of unknown and like
might see some street rats back there.
I mean, or like Harry Potter. You never know. Like the guys. I forget what the guys
Hagrid?
are.
Those
The mentors.
Oh.
Like they may be back there. Like I'm not trying to. I'm trying to get away. So I think it'd be cool to go to Reddit and just again, people are not honest. Maybe I'm sure people aren't honest on Reddit.
Yeah.
But there's also people who are overly honest. So what if we check out to see what they say?
Let's see what they say, man. Let's check it out.
Okay, so Reddit,
Yep.
dark recesses of people's minds.
For sure.
Sometimes
The beauty of it, the beautiful recesses.
the beautiful, dark,
Is that
a
band name? The beautiful recesses of my mind.
beautiful abscesses? I think is what you're talking about.
Oh no, that's what I had in my toenails the other day.
Okay, so man, there's the subreddit Ask Me Advice.
Yeah, great place to start.
Now, again, what I'm about to share with you is I'm gonna have to.
This is a real thing.
I'm gonna translate it into a not so vulgar thing, but I think and I have no idea if this is real or not.
Sure.
But I tend to think that it is.
If it's on the internet, that's what they say.
But and another thing, if there's why lie necessarily? People do, but so this guy's having trouble being intimate with his wife.
Okay.
Because.
Intimate meaning the sex?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because in a certain way he does it.
Oh, okay.
All he thinks about is smelling poop.
Okay.
But that's just like somebody being honest.
Is the way in the way he does more in a solid animal, a certain animal that you keep at your house?
A pet.
Yeah.
Probably the most popular pet.
Rhymes with smog.
Yeah.
And starts with a D.
Yeah, you basically told me.
Right, cool.
So
I'm just making sure.
But that's this guy. This is vulnerable. Talking about vulnerability.
So hold up, you're saying he did that with his wife, and then it smelled like poop, and now he's struggling to want to whenever they're about to have sex or whatever. He's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Smell of poop.
He literally said she's clean,
Yeah.
showers all the time, but this one time. So we don't have to get into this. I'm just telling.
No. I think we should pitch it real quick.
Okay. I wish this guy.
I think so.
I wish we could talk to him right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So Muscle Milk is up there. Muscle Milk 87. If you're out there.
Great guy.
If you're out there, Logan's got an idea for you.
Yeah, well, I got a couple potential pitch options. One being, I think you go poop. You need to go.
You're offered. This is what to do.
Yeah.
Like end that whole like.
Yeah, this is not real advice. That's not therapeutic advice. Okay, let me just clarify. This is just Logan.
Practical, just like real.
Yeah,
like,
that's what we probably should do. We probably should go poop and wipe, and then post wiping, give the toilet paper a little sniff, and realize, oh man, my butt smells really bad too, and it kind of begins like maybe empathy a little bit.
Creating some.
There we go. I'm trying to get it back. I can be empathetic that maybe my wife's booty can smell because my booty also smells, and therefore we are an equal playing field.
Okay, I'm gonna end it in two ways. I'm gonna take a little bit less. So I'm gonna go.
Can you roll?
Something my grandmother used to always tell me.
Okay.
Well, actually, there's a children's book that's like literally everybody poops. Like that. I don't know that we had it. Yeah. Mom, I'm not sure. Yeah. Sorry. Second of all, my grandmother, my mom, people told me all the time, opinions are like what? Buttholes.
Yes, that's right.
Everybody's got one, and they all
stink.
They all stink. So muscle milk.
There you go.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah. Probably leave it, but like
I would say most likely leave that completely.
But if Muscle Milk sees this and he does that and it works, I think we should make this a regular thing.
Yeah. Please call in.
On a little less, but like there are other things in this Ask Me Advice part where people get vulnerable, and like I said, people are much more vulnerable when there's no face attached to it, or nobody knows who Muscle Milk is, or Redliner 740. Nobody has any idea who that actually is.
That was my AOL screen name, but
I don't. Yeah. This is only the first episode. I can't get into what my name was, but we'll do that at some point. Keep me honest on that. Okay, so this one says, when someone says they want to date someone with ambition, do they just mean money? So similarly, I could see where this kind of goes into a success kind of thing. Like, is success money?
Yeah, for sure. And if I'm not quote unquote successful, will they want to be with me, right?
And that's very subjective because personally, I have never felt like successful enough. I've never felt it in my marriage, particularly with money. Yeah. It's been more maybe how I perform in my job or how there's a point where my wife didn't work for a while and then she started working, and and at 1 year she made just as much as I did, and that hadn't always been the case. Yeah. And I didn't feel threatened at all. Yeah. It was great. Yeah. The thought was it was more along the lines of, man, like she started her own business, she started her own thing, and so she was growing, and I was at a position where I wasn't. Yes, this is financial, but like I like my growth was not dependent upon me as much as it was opportunity in the position I was in, and so it was more like she's growing, and like I am just doing the same thing I've been doing for the last 5 years, growing in that role, but like not at the same speed she was, and that's where I felt like I was lacking. Yeah. It was not. It wasn't the financial piece. I enjoyed that because she was making a lot of it. I enjoyed that. It was she's finding her passion and her like what God made her to do. She's finding that. Yeah. And I was feeling like, man, am I just always going to be in this position? Yeah. So I felt that tension in that way.
Could you still feel ambition in those moments, if that was the case for you, and you were doing things consistently in life that made you feel like you were moving forward in other areas? Where like, hey, I am working out consistently, which would make me feel like I'm moving forward physically, or hey, I am consistently showing up to. I would volunteer this place, or consistently showing up in my friend groups to like build relationships. I'm consistently showing up for my kids to like be a dad that's present, and in that like I value that ambition that's there that I'm seeing in my own life about at the base level of like I am consistent, right? And there's something about being consistent that relates to ambition, because I mean if you're ambitious for like a week, cool, but like the willingness to be.
I don't know that I could have put it that way, and looking back, I think. The biggest part of me was I was providing stability,
Yeah.
and it was not. I didn't feel like I was taking risks, and I wanted to grow, and I wanted to have more leadership. I wanted to grow in a role, and when I saw her growth, I was jealous that she was experiencing growth in that way.
Career wise.
Yeah, and not necessarily. Again, it wasn't jealousy that like I wanted to be I wanted to do what she's doing in that way. It was, man, I'm seeing her be challenged, and I'm seeing her take on these things, and I having the front row seat to that is one of the greatest joys of my life. Yeah, truly, Logan. Awesome, but I found myself like, I want that in my own lane as well. And so from a comparison, it's funny how like, even in the most pure like relationship, the woman I care about the most, the person I care about the most, seeing her success, and then I'm thinking about myself and like, how come I want that, I want that as well. So, that's, one guy, I think we had really good responses to that. That's not the best response. I don't know about really good, but like adequate. We had adequate response. This one, talked about it. He said, this guy says, basically collect every Pokemon and you got it.
Did you have a Charizard growing up?
Man, don't throw anything at me. I was not like,
you weren't a big Pokemon guy.
I thought Pokemon was dumb.
Were you a Yu-Gi-Oh guy?
I just didn't really.
You weren't a card guy. Beanie Baby?
I did have some Beanie Babies.
Okay. Hit the Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, what was the green one with the clover? I think Erin. I think was what it was. It was
A or E was a girl or
Erin. Yeah, it was a girl.
Maybe.
I think it could be a guy. Yeah. Let's do one more. Let's do one more. The last one. So this one literally says just male vulnerability.
Well, hey, welcome to the show, male vulnerability. Who is it? Who we got?
This is temp_throwaway.
Hey.
He sounds like a great guy.
Temp.
It could be a girl asking for men's advice too, right? Could that be a non-user, or do you think that somebody actually made that name?
No, I think it's just a random name Reddit gave to them.
Okay. All right. So it's talking about, I'll just read it. I don't want to discourage male vulnerability here because I know it's obviously important to be in touch with our emotions. But I want advice and to know other people's situations. I've had partners who disconnect with me after I get emotional or vulnerable with them. They'll say they want communication and a man who's in touch with his emotions.
Sure.
But when I ugly cry about my trauma, they get the ick and lose whatever image they have of me.
When did it come out? When did this thing?
I heard it for the first time like 3 years ago.
Okay.
And it was in a way that I was like,
you got the ick from the ick.
Well, no, I was like, the ick. Like, how did... That's
ick?
Perfect. Like, that's the perfect description of that feeling. How come I've never like put it that way? That was my initial reaction.
Is there a song about the ick yet?
Oh, I bet there's a dance.
It's gotta be, Teach me how to ick.
They wipe their smell it. That's terrible. Teach me how to icky. Gosh, the ick. Okay, so the question is.
Well, I thought that was.
Let's see. So if I ugly cry about my trauma, they get the ick, lose whatever image they had of me.
Yeah.
Is this justifiable?
Oh, okay.
Am I bonding with the wrong people?
Yeah.
Am I the problem? I need to be less when expressing my emotions.
Yeah. No, the concept of being too much, right?
Too much.
I'm too much. You're too much.
Too much.
Right? I think it's a real thing. I mean, I've experienced that feeling. I mean, am I too much before? Like even like in sharing, like am I talking too much? Do I like care too much? Am I whatever too much? And so like that feeling of like needing to be less. I think it's a really sad, but like real thing that a lot of folks experience. In terms of like, okay, how if I just make sure I'm tracking with you. So I share emotion with the female. In this case, maybe I cry, ugly cry.
You said ugly cry about my trauma.
Yeah, about my trauma.
They get the ick.
Yeah.
And lose whatever
So first off, I would encourage people if you're talking about if you're in a spot where you're ugly crying about your trauma, you probably need to be a little bit more aware of like what feels safe to talk about than just jumping in and sharing that.
Does timing matter, or is that something you lead out with on the first date? Like,
yeah. So a couple things, right?
Because that was my immediate reaction. It was like, when is this? When is this happening?
So I think there are a couple things here. Timing is important because I think in relationships, so there's like a graph.
Hey, I'm Nathan. By the way.
Yeah.
When I was 4 years old.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll pause there. There's like a graph of like how not to fall in love with a jerk is what it's called. And it basically kind of walks through like these four things: how much you know them, how much you trust them, how much you rely on them, how much you're committed to them.
Okay, so how much you know them, how much you trust them.
Yep. how much you rely on them, how much you're committed to them.
Okay.
And there's a sense that like the preceding column should always be higher than the next column. So you should always know someone more than you trust someone more than you rely on them more than you're committed to them.
Yeah.
Right. And as you grow, how much you know them grows, how much I trust them will grow, how much I rely on them grows, how much I'll be committed to them grows. And so, and so two things, timing impacts that because I can only know someone as time moves on.
Yeah.
And so part of my question would be like, hey, if we're like overly sharing our emotions with people before we really know them too much, it's hard to even know if we can even trust them. And this is kind of something, when it comes to like sharing trauma, I would only encourage anyone to share with someone that you actually deeply trust.
Yeah.
And so, first off, I wouldn't jump into that stuff unless there is a basis of trust, unless you can rely on them that they're actually going to show up well, and you're actually kind of committed to some extent to like, hey, I believe they're going to be here. If not, I might be a little quick on the draw, because if this person actually does care for you and there is trust built, there's relying built, there's commitment built, there's probably more of a capacity for him or her to actually hold that for you compared to just jumping in and sharing a lot without a whole lot of like, I don't even know if I can trust this person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think something you said really jogged my, like this thought entered my mind to where, I mean, that vulnerability is a risk in a huge way to where I am way more likely to be vulnerable with my wife.
100%.
Because if you think about like, what was the first one?
How much you know them?
Know them, trust them, rely on them, committed. Like when we're talking about commitment, the most commitment I have from anyone or that I've given to anyone is my wife.
Yeah.
I have no problem being vulnerable with her.
Yeah.
I have a problem being vulnerable with people anyway. Like I can be too vulnerable. Like, but maybe that's because I've experienced vulnerability and like been seen in that vulnerability with my wife and with close friends where I just am okay. I'm comfortable with that. I think in dating, that line is just it's a dance. Like there's no.
Yeah.
I think the timing matters a lot.
How soon do I share with them?
But, and again, like my wife and I, we've experienced hard things and together and worked through them, and that's made us stronger, which I think is the point of all of that. Those types of things.
Wears a robe now at night sometimes.
Well, hopefully that's not why she wears a robe. That would be, it's different than your robe. It's different than your robe.
Okay.
So
That's true. I forgot. Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, when we're talking about this, feeling of being enough, am I successful enough? I think just to tie a bow on our conversation about vulnerability, conversation about being smart enough, funny enough, whatever enough. To me, being known and seen as who you truly are, because the reality is you're not going to be smart enough for somebody else. You're not going to be you're never going to achieve.
Yeah.
Like there's never going to be
that
moment of achievement where it's like, I am smart enough, because then there's going to be the next person, So there's a recognition of like who I am is enough.
Yep.
That doesn't mean, like you said, doesn't mean I have goals, don't have ambitions, but I am, there's a present present, like who I am in this present moment. If I can be seen and known who I am, doesn't mean I can't grow, but that if I can express that to someone, then I can be genuinely known, and I can, in the case of you calling your friend, like I can be seen, be known in this moment of like, man, I don't feel enough. But like that's okay, because that's where I am today.
Yeah, and the more you do that, the more you actually you allow yourself not to be like have it all together and show up to spaces and actually be like accepted and like welcomed and connected. Like the more it's like, oh, like it's actually okay. I think like even in the context of marriage, sometimes with the guys, and I know I felt this way, of like I'm supposed to be the steady one. I'm supposed to have it all together, and if I don't, like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And
everything falls apart.
Yeah, exactly. And I had to learn to like take myself off this pedestal, and even actually really work to not let my wife see me as on a pedestal, right? I think there's a desire for her, like, for me to want her to see me as someone that
Yeah.
like has it all together and whatever. And so like she talks highly of me and thinks highly of me. And again, sure, I want her to think those things, but not because I'm on a pedestal. I want her to think those things because she actually knows me,
Yeah.
right? And the only way she can actually really know me is if I'm actually honest about the things I'm wrestling with, the things I'm struggling with. And that doesn't necessarily then have to like lead to her being worried about me. I think this is part of like the problem, honestly, a lot of times with guys is like, why would I share this if the goal isn't for the person to fix it, right? Like why would I share anything? It's because this person I'm sharing with, they can't do anything about what I'm going through. And so
Yeah.
why share if there's me like, yeah, I can't. I mean, that's a lot. I can't share. I don't know. I think it was important to understand whether it's with your spouse, really with anybody, but specifically in this case with your spouse. The goal of sharing isn't for them to fix it. The goal of sharing is just to be known. And so, the more I'm known, the less I hide. The more connected I feel. And yeah, I'm not like trying to live this double life of,
Yeah.
you know, got it all good together on the outside, but inwardly I'm falling apart.
I think, man, and this could be another conversation for another day, but I think this world craves authenticity. We crave authenticity. And when we can't even, we feel like we can't be authentically us to the people who are around us, I think that sends us into chaos. Maybe inner, maybe outer, but like certainly inner. And we feel like an imposter, imposter syndrome. And so I think that one step towards, at least from the conversation and the insight we've talked through here, like being able to describe accurately where you are, and not that this is the end goal, but this is where I am, and awareness, self-awareness is such a crucial thing for our understanding of who we are, and being able to be honest with the people who are around.
Yeah, man. That's where it starts.
Starts with you.
It starts with you is one thing. I don't know why. Doesn't really matter how hard you try.
That's our outro music.
How much do you think it costs to play that as your outro?
Linkin Park, they I feel like they're around.
Jenny was hardcore Linkin Park.
She was a Park star.
She probably got some connections Linkin Park. Maybe I can see.
Dude. Yeah, I think one of the main guys isn't with us anymore, unfortunately. So
pour a little bit out for Linkin Park.
So on that note,
Here comes Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
But no, man, I appreciate it, and truly, I think our hope and how this conversation is now and going forward is to normalize just a lot of things that dudes go through, that we experience, and just try to externalize them, so it's not just like they're not just on Reddit, but they're actually being talked about.
And sometimes not having an answer and knowing you don't have an answer is a good thing.
Yeah.
And that there's community in that, in a sense. Like it's okay to not have it all together. Yeah. I think a lot like, man, we may have conversations that ultimately get us nowhere. Yeah. In a sense of like fixing it. Well, but it leaves us more confident to be truly ourselves. Yeah. Because like, oh, okay, like I'm with this person, like people are with me, and for me, and they see me for who I am.
Yeah. Well, sweet. Well, elbow, smack, touch.
Dude, people are gonna think we're so weird.
We probably should work on that.
What they don't know is that we go way back.
We watched Pocahontas together when we were 7.
Yeah.
I was 7.
30 years ago.
You were.
We go way back.
12.
Way back.
Something.
So,
all right,
anyway.
Man. Well, I'll see you next time.
Yep.